I am Molly from Where's Molly, and in this video I am going to share as much knowledge as I can and all of the tips I can possibly squeeze out in order to help you plan your adventure to Bali. I'm currently on the island, hence the sweaty glow. It's very warm. I've been here 4 times now, so this is my 4th adventure. I feel like I've got some pretty useful tips, and there are some really important things that you should know or be aware of before you come to the island, so I'm going to try and cover as many of those as possible for you. If you're looking for something in particular and you don't want to listen to the whole video, check out the description. I put a breakdown of everything I've included, and I've also popped all the links to my blog posts because there might be bits where you're like, I want to know more about Uluwatu, for example. So all those links are below. Where is Bali? Bali is an island located in the tropics of Indonesia, a country in Southeast Asia. When is the best time to visit Bali? Now, this is a funny topic and it's a question that gets asked a lot because I hear lots of rumors of people saying, don't go when it's wet season. I mean, it is currently wet season, rainy season, and I'm staring into clear blue skies. I've been here for 6 weeks and we've had probably 3 days of full rain, warm tropical rain that is, and then like downpours here and there. They don't last long, they're warm, and it's definitely not something to put you off coming. Wet season months are November through to March, and then you have the dry season, which is June, July, August. So typically wet season is the lower tourism and dry season is the popular high season, but Bali is warm and desirable all year round. Between wet and dry season, you obviously have other months, which are called the shoulder months. In those times, you expect kind of mid-tourism, mid-prices with hotels and things like that. Yeah, just a little bit of a compromise between the wet and the dry. Bottom line, if you are planning and you just want sunshine, don't even want to chance the rain, your best bet is to go in the dry season. Please note that right now, on the weather forecast app, it's saying that it's stormy and rainy here in Bali, and I'm sitting here in sunshine. The weather forecast on the app is not like accurate, so don't let it put you off. So you've decided the kind of time that you're gonna go, you know where it is. Now, where do you stay when you get to Bali? The crazy thing about this island is word is catching on pretty quick, so things are changing pretty quick. Overseas investment and Western investment is coming in, and it is changing places for sure. I just want to say here that I don't think Bali is ruined. There's a lot of rumours, and I actually even said that myself, that Bali was getting ruined, but I've seen it with completely new eyes, and the beauty is for sure still here. The people, the culture, the weather, the landscapes, it's still here. When I first visited Bali 7 years ago now, it makes me feel really old. Canggu, for example, I'm sure you've heard of it, wasn't a thing. Travel guides weren't telling me to go there wasn't much tourism. I actually only went for the first time 3 years ago, and still it wasn't that busy. Whereas this time it is full of tourism. And that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. There's awesome waves, awesome cafes, awesome like buzz to the place. There's lots of digital nomads, but it's just very different to what it was 4 years ago. So one thing I will say is when you're planning your trip to Bali, make sure you're listening to up-to-date information. Get tips of people who have been recently, and make sure you're looking at dates of guides that you're watching, because information even a year ago is going to be different to what's actually existing now. I'm going to do a little lowdown of the most popular spots in Bali and what they can offer to you in terms of adventure. But again, like I said at the beginning, if there's an area your kind of heart is set on or that pulls you in and you want to know a bit more, I've done a guide on pretty much everywhere in Bali, so I'm going to link all the travel guides below for you. You are most likely going to start your Balinese adventure at the airport, the main international airport, which is Denpasar, the Kuta region. And to be honest, Kuta, I did visit there on my first ever trip 7 years ago, and I haven't been back since, and I haven't been recommended to go back since. So I'm sure there's adventure to find, but it's not one of the popular areas to stay. Then there's the Bukit Peninsula, which is one of my favourite parts of Bali, which is located just below the airport. It's the southernmost kind of little, looks like another little island off the island, but it's not. But it is linked by Nusa Dua and Jimbaran, which are spots in themselves. Nusa Dua has the big BIMC hospital, and that's also where there's a lot of big hotels and there's water sports on the beach. It's a very touristy area. I haven't spent much time there because when I come to Bali, it's not the kind of adventure I'm seeking, but it has its place. There's also Jimbaran, which is known as the place to get fresh fish. So seafood dinners on the beach are a thing. I'm actually going tonight. It's a great date night spot. It's also on sunset side. So you watch the sunset, eat seafood, lovely. My favourite place without a doubt on the Bukit Peninsula is Uluwatu, which is where I'm actually now filming this video and where I've spent a considerable amount, probably 3 weeks in total on this trip. I just love this chilled out kind of surfy vibe here. I'm not a professional surfer by any means, but you can learn, there's beautiful beaches to learn here, and there's also places where you can watch incredible surfers on world-class surf breaks. Uluwatu Beach is a reef break, and it's one of the most consistent surf breaks in the world, and there's all like bars, single fin you might have heard of, and lots of cocktail bars, and we're around to have dinner and watch the sunset. All of that combined, cocktail, sunset, surfers. is basically Uluwatu. Moving north of Bali, away from the Bukit Peninsula and above the airport, the first place you have is Seminyak. This is a good place if you're doing a really spontaneous adventure and going to make it up as you go along, but need somewhere to spend your first night. Seminyak is very busy, very touristy, but it's a good starting point, I would say, particularly for a solo traveller if you're needing a little bit of comfort, a little bit of like energy around you, and that's not far from the airport. Seminyak is too touristy for me personally now when I come to Bali for what I seek, but it is worth mentioning. It's got loads of beautiful cafes and hotels. Just north of Canggu, the place that I said wasn't a thing 7 years ago, that is now where kind of I would suggest to go for the beachfront surf vibes. Still that buzzing energy of digital nomads and things like that, but just not ruined yet. Grab a board, learn to surf. It is beautiful in Canggu. I've spent 2 weeks there. You've got your gyms, cafes, rice fields are around. There's lots of international DJs. It's got a buzz for sure. Moving away from the beach and inland, you have the famous Ubud, which is just as beautiful as the first time I visited 7 years ago. It is expanding, it is growing like everywhere with tourism, but it still has the most beautiful spiritual kind of hub and vibe there. There's an abundance of spiritual and wellness things going on there. It's where a lot of the retreats are run. It's right in the middle of the island, so it's surrounded by waterfalls and rice terraces and beautiful nature to enjoy. But it is amazing. I would definitely check it out on your trip. Even if you're like a surfy, beachy person, it's worth a day trip or a couple of nights there. Moving above Ubud, you have, that's where Mount Batur is, so it's right in the middle of the island, and that's a really popular day hike. You can do it in a day, you can do it for sunrise, you can do it, I can't actually remember, I think it's like 3 hours or something, depends on your fitness, but it is a beautiful hike. You can do day trips from Ubud and Canggu, but it's also, I did it on, stop off on a road trip around the island. Okay, and then we have the north of the island, which isn't really explored, particularly not when compared to Canggu and Uluwatu. In Lovina, which is actually the northwest of the island, you can actually, it's a popular place to take a boat out at sunrise and see the dolphins. The north of the island is actually where all the fishing happens as well, so if you do like a little road trip up there, you can jump into a local fisherman's boat and they catch things like octopus and mahi-mahi. Lots of kind of alternative adventure in the north, so I would highly recommend that. I am getting sweaty. Somewhere I forgot to mention actually is Sanur, which is located on the eastern coast of Bali. It's a seaside town, really beautiful hotels and cafes, and it's one of, if not the most popular place to catch the boats over to the Gili Islands and the Nusa Islands. The islands aren't Bali, but they are so worth doing, and there's guides on my blog. I'll pop it below. By the way, this cup is just for a bit of colour, there's nothing in it. And also these are like the flower of Bali, it's the frangipani. So if you have any massages or anything, these are always laid out, and frangipani oils are used quite a lot. Fun fact.